in the sense that it has only one seat in Parliament. Only 31,000 people out of voted for it. It has narrow vision because, like most, if you're a communist, your views are reduced and narrowed to only communism. If you're a Christian, your views are narrowed to only Christianity. So with Islam, your views are narrowed and focused on Islam. So those are the two reasons why I've said it has a narrow focus, and it's a small party. The playing with fire part is a separate issue, where Tony Leon in '99, I think, came up with a slogan of fighting back. And it was perceived at the time that he was talking about white people fighting back against black people. And that is always, the perception remains that to fight back is a dangerous statement because it means somebody's fighting against you, so you have to fight back. So let's just explain that, how that came about. But it is a small party, and we have to be, it actually, in relative terms, it got more votes than the Capitalist Party, than Agrang, than Azapo, the Socialist Worker Party. So, it's in relative terms, it has achieved something. So it has large ambitions in the sense that, like most parties, most political parties, they want, let's use a football analogy. Every football team plays to win. They don't play to lose. So Jama-ah play the politics, and it wants to win. So that is the ambition. And so I hope that clears up that headline.
Yes. Now, being a party, the Jama-ah party, obviously that promotes an Islamic ethos, and coming into a political space which is obviously governed by secularism, by democracy, and I would say a fair amount of it obviously does not conform to the Islamic belief system. And just looking at how a party like the Jama-ah party would fit into a political space coming against a background of an Islamic ethos and Islamic principles, Dr. Ismail.
Mr. Hendricks is very optimistic in the sense that he believes that Jama-ah can help make a difference with good governance and by giving Muslims a voice. I think he's being very realistic in that sense, but I suspect that he could, where they have municipal and provincial representation, they can help influence good governance, good ethics, and those kind of things. So he's quite comfortable in that sense, but he is also very firm in his beliefs that more Muslims should become active in Jama-ah so they can start influencing politics in South Africa.
Yes, but Dr. Ismail, this is where one starts to asking certain questions, particularly when we're talking about Sharia law versus the constitution of the country, where there is a complete disconnect between Sharia and
Right.
and the constitution of the country. And my question would be: is how would Jama-ah fit into a situation like this?
Yeah, I asked him that, and to be honest, he wasn't very clear about that, very explicit about that, and I don't think he could tell me, where and what Jama-ah or how Sharia law fits into a secular democracy. But he was very specific about only one or two little things. He very quickly, whereas our constitution does not discriminate on sexual orientation. The only thing that he was very specific about is that homosexuality be outlawed. And so I asked him, would you, if you became if you governed tomorrow and you won all the necessary votes to govern, would you institute Sharia law? And so he said, if a lot of people voted for us, it means they actually accepted us. They accepted what we stood for, and purely by dint of that, I imagine people will accept Sharia law.
Mm. Now, when we're looking at the Al Jama-ah party, and I see in your opinion piece, this is where the question was raised: what would South Africa look like if governed by Al Jama-ah?
Yeah. That's the point at which he wasn't very clear. Although it came through, he said it would be deen-based. And I pushed him a bit on that, what it meant. And deen, he said, was a way of life. But my understanding of deen is that, deen comes up in the Quran more than 200 times. And there's very little difference between deen and Sharia. So I think he hides his Sharia law behind the idea of deen, which is, and if you look at deen in secular terms, it just basically means living a humble life, being kind to people, doing good, and working in the name of your Creator. But he didn't go far enough for me, and that's where I said in the piece that I didn't push him, because then it would become a discussion on religion, where I wanted it to remain a discussion on politics.
I think it's quite interesting. But I think, at the end of the day, I think just after your interview and possibly your analysis or your assessment of, Muslims and the role of Muslims generally in political life, we're not seeing the level of interest and participation that we have seen in the past, in the apartheid era, and also in the early years of our democracy.
Right.
And certainly, a lot has actually changed. And that is the reason why we're not seeing Muslims as active as they should be in political and also sometimes civic life.
Right. Several years ago, it's a long time ago now, I asked a Muslim friend, about the first election, and he said he was quite forthright in saying he's not going to vote because by voting, Muslims are expected to vote against one another. And I found that quite curious that, people actually thought that way. But you're right, there are very few, so with his I can see, I wrote elsewhere that, there are colored people in politics, but there isn't a colored political party. I wrote this about 2 years ago. So there are Muslims in the DA, there are Muslims in the ANC, even in the EFF, but there isn't a Muslim party until now with Al Jama-ah. So they could improve, or we live in a world in which many, many people are retreating into their ethnic or religious identities. And so you find that a lot of people are becoming much more conservative. And on that basis, I think Al Jama-ah might actually grow. But I don't think they'll get more than 5 or 6%, because they really don't. There aren't that many Muslims in the country, because right now I think they rely only on the Muslim vote.
Well, Dr. Ismail Lagardien, I must say shukran to you, Jazakallah, for your time with us this morning on Salam Media.
Welcome.
And most absorbing, very, very interesting, getting your views and the discussion generally overall, very, very beneficial, a lot of value that you've added to the show this morning. We wish you all the best, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.
Dr. Ismail Lagardien joining us this morning, looking at the Jama-ah party and his analysis on where the party is at this point in time, which brings us straight on to 8:48 a.m. We come back. We look at South Africa downgrades, pushing South Africa further into junk status.